Pilgrim.
Hi, I was thinking about asking you out, but then I realized how stupid that would be. So, do you want to go out sometime?
No, that's okay. You just need to sign for this, all right?
I just woke up and you were in my dream. I dreamt that you were delivering me this package. Is that weird?
It's not weird at all.
It's not?
No, it's just that you have this really convenient subspace highway running through your head that I like to use. It's like 3 miles in 15 seconds.
Right.
I forgot. You guys don't have that in cheat codes.
It's June 28th, 2016. Welcome to episode 102 of the Cheat Codes podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us, as usual, right? The next hour is us drinking a few beers and going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game, tech, and pop culture news. My name is Joe Arroyo. I am your host today, filling in for Joe Erskine, who is rotting in jail after being arrested by the vegan police for eating chicken. Today, I'm here with Cheat Codes contributor, Mr. Nick Young Neil Golish.
Hey, how's it going?
Cheat Codes community manager, Mr. Chris Knives Morris.
Hi.
And we're happy to welcome designer at Fulbright, Nina Ramona Flowers Freeman.
Hello.
Today on the show, we'll break out the L word to sort out the following bits. How is Brexit likely to affect the British gaming industry? Coding boot camps are everywhere, but how many of them have accurate stats when it comes to job placement? And Valve is facing a lawsuit for its role in online gambling. For today's lightning round, we'll do a grindy thingy on that rail to explain the following topics. When the games leak, what's it like for the devs that are actually behind it all? And lastly, have Steam sales lost their appeal? Have they? Nina! Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We know you keep pretty busy, so we're really grateful that you're willing to be a part of our little family for the next hour.
No problem.
Right on. Before we get on with the meat of the show, why don't you take a moment to plug kind of some of what you're working on at Fulbright or anything you have going on personally as well?
Sure. These days I'm mostly just working at Fulbright on Tacoma, which is our current game. We just showed it at E3, so there's a new trailer and everything that people should check out. It's a game that's set in a space station, sort of near future, with a crew of 6 members, and it's sort of about learning about what the crew is up to on this ship called Tacoma. And outside of that, I am hosting showing a game at this party on Thursday, which is going to be really fun in Portland at this bar called Ground Control, which is basically a bar/arcade. And I'm showing this game Bum Rush, which is an 8-player car combat dating sim racing game that I made last year with some friends.
I feel like I need to back up there.
Yeah, 8-player car combat dating sim racing game. Yes. It is all those things. You basically play as one of 8 college roommates who are all having a hot date on the same night, and they don't want to share the room. They want to bring home their own date and to hook up. So they basically race to see who gets to claim the room. And you can knock other people's dates out of their cars and stuff and collect dates and take home as many as you can.
Oh, so great.
So it's a pretty accurate college dating sim racing game simulator thing. But that is my next thing that I'm doing outside of Fulbright stuff. And we'll hopefully be sharing some news about releasing that game pretty soon. So yeah, I guess that's what's up with me.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So you had to relocate, huh?
Yes.
To work for Fulbright. How long ago was that?
I moved from Brooklyn, New York to Portland probably a little over a year and a half ago at this point. It was last February. So yeah, that would be a little over a year and a half ago at this point. But yeah, right after I finished grad school, I literally defended my thesis and then flew to Portland a week later.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's a shame. Our regular host can't be here. He's a Brooklyn native as well, so I'm sure he would.
That's so cool.
He would talk
I'm
about.
from Boston originally, but
I
went to school in New York and lived there for 5 years. So.
Awesome. Yeah, he would definitely spend time talking about what it was like to come out to the Northwest.
Yeah,
Interesting.
It's quite the trip.
Right on. All right. Well, very quickly, let's talk about what we're washing this episode down with. When we're not conjuring up fireballs with demon hipster chicks, we're usually drinking some beers and doing a podcast, as you can tell. So tonight we're enjoying a few hop-notch tangerine IPAs from Uinta Brewing Company. On a warm summer day, they're SL-ic. All right. Too many.
Oh my God! Come on.
Yeah, too many Scott Pilgrims. All right, let's get to the madness, shall we? Number 1. Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you're probably aware of the recent situation in the UK, in which the majority vote is in favor of Great Britain leaving the European Union, also known as Brexit. Now, don't worry, we're not going to go uber political on this one. I mean, I know it sounds really difficult considering the topic, but instead we're going to focus on a recent article from VentureBeat in which UK devs are asked to give their opinions on how this would affect the international games industry and UK specifically. So, like with the pound's value tanking to a record low of 1.36 American dollars, it's causing a lot of uncertainty with investors naturally. Moreover, trading taxes or tariffs rather, they may likely change, causing concern for distributors who send games out there. And additionally, among many other things we'll get to, some major game companies have their European or international headquarters based in London. So will they feel compelled to move out once the UK is no longer part of the EU and they don't get all the EU benefits? So initial reactions, I don't know, how much do you guys think that this will impact the industry? Whoever wants it. Throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's not going to be as big of an impact as people think. I think there'll be some impact, like just values will change and like maybe the pricing of certain games or something. But it's not going to be like a huge impact. I think game sales are going to probably stay pretty steady because it's a vice and people still spend money in vices in hard times.
It's like taxing cigarettes.
Yeah, people still.
It's gonna be fine.
People still gonna smoke. Like outlaw alcohol and people still gonna drink. It's just, I don't know. Like video games are not necessarily the same thing, but they are a vice at times, and people are gonna spend money on them still. So I don't know.
Okay, Chris Morris.
I mean, just reading over this article, it seems like the impact will be negligible. I would say that the impact will probably be biggest on like large conglomerates that have to deal with taxes and exchange rates and all that nonsense. But even still, like if you go through this, like the guy that worked on Democracy 3 was saying, essentially, if the pound against the dollar is low, because pretty much like games are priced, in the USD, right? Steam is such a huge marketplace, and it just kind of like, it's good for him because he doesn't have to sell as many copies to essentially make the same amount of money as he would have been making before. I don't know about like, the likes of Ubisoft, EA, et cetera, right? If they have more that they have to worry about there. But honestly, like this Brexit thing, I think it's just going to be business as usual, at least for games. Other stuff like financial industries are obviously being like hit really hard, but it seems like these guys are not really too concerned about it.
All right. Nina, what do you think?
I guess, so given my super limited understanding of this topic, because I'm not obviously living in the UK, based on like what I've seen people tweeting about, because it seems like everyone is tweeting about it, especially games people, I feel like from my perspective, at least, it'll affect developers insofar as like just their individual lives outside of like the daily grind of selling games will be affected by various outcomes of this decision. So obviously when something in a developer's personal life changes, that can affect their ability to like work on stuff. So it seems that at least in that capacity, from my limited perspective, it will affect people in that way, just because, when the world changes around you in such a drastic way in a short period of time, it's naturally going to affect your personal life or whatever other stuff, or people's access to other countries given their citizenship or whatever. That stuff will, from what I have seen, at least people talking about it, that stuff seems to be a pretty big deal.
Right. I like the personal perspective a lot. That's interesting. I mean, maybe even some really interesting projects can come out of that type of thing. I mean, based on the sort of things that we go through in our daily lives, that's usually what manifests itself in an indie project or something to that effect. So I'd be interested to see what kind of things happen if this continues to move forward. In terms of additional context or things to consider about this situation, I'll delve into a couple of the political outcomes that might occur that might actually affect the games industry, and one of which is if Britain is no longer a part of the EU, then right now people can move freely between countries in the EU because they're treated a lot like the way states are here in the US. So it would be like the equivalent if Texas just went up and decided to no longer be a part of the United States, and that their citizens people from Arizona can't suddenly move to Texas anymore. And people who live in Texas who want to be a part of the United States have to get out, basically, or at least that's what they're being told. Yeah. So there's this weird issue here where what happens when UK citizens are living in other countries and working in games right now, and suddenly they're told they have to leave, or they can't have their job anymore. They have to move back.
I think that's going to be the most dramatic impact of the whole thing. Not necessarily like the biggest thing. Like there might be some kind of market thing that comes from it, like changing in prices or something. But the thing that I feel like that really, like, what's the word? I guess influences me about the topic or something is the fact that these people aren't necessarily going to be able to work under the same conditions that they were before. Like, I don't know how visas work over there necessarily, but if they're working in another country and, like you said, their visa is no longer valid because it belonged to the European Union and they're no longer part of that, even though they're citizens of the UK, like, what happens? Can they work in these other countries still? I mean, they did before, but now just kind of, it adds another complication. It's going to upturn their lives, but things will go back to normal.
Also, like, what I've been reading about is, like, there's been a dramatic increase in, like, hate crimes and stuff in the UK because of this, or at least in light of it. So I imagine there are probably minority developers over there, or developers who came into the UK from elsewhere and who might be not feeling safe or have to leave for whatever reason. And, like, you know, if you have to suddenly move and you have to spend all that money, that definitely affects your ability to ship stuff. So,
well, I wonder if people working at larger studios will have assistance from the studios if these, like, dramatic impacts like hit their lives. If it's kind of like, whatever, you work at Ubisoft in the UK and all of a sudden you have to, like, relocate to, like, some other Ubisoft studio, if they're going to be good about helping people out with that stuff. I would imagine they would be, right? It's kind of like not their fault. So it's sort of like the company's partly the company's responsibility to help them through this process, I would assume. Except
for the governments put the strain on the companies to be able to, like, provide for their employees. I mean, they under the same circumstances they wouldn't have to do anything, I guess. But now that things have changed, now the companies are responsible for providing for their employees. Because, I mean, somebody that worked in another country, like, suddenly they can't work there anymore and they have their entire family there. They got to uproot and they got to move now, possibly. I mean, anything, I don't know exactly the implication of it, but yeah.
None of that stuff is kind of guaranteed. In fact, some people are fearing the opposite, related to, it was in the article as well, where if that's not going to be an issue, where they'll just say, okay, wherever anyone is, that's where you're going to be, the end. And then we'll deal with it. They're actually worried that a lot of UK developers who have a lot of clout are looking at this opportunity to be like, hey, where can I live before this happens? And maybe I'll go move to a different country in the EU, set up shop with a new company right before it all goes through. And now I have my citizenship in Spain instead, or some other country. And it's like, I've always wanted to live there. Well, now is the chance because I have to make a decision in the coming months.
That could be something. I mean, I don't know if maybe there was something in the European Union where it's like, if they, like, dissolved or something, those citizens become half citizens of the country or something.
But a lot of the companies are worried
or something. Yeah,
I don't know. That's the stuff that needs to get ironed out, and a lot of companies are worried about losing good talent for this reason.
Well, and think about all the tax revenue that gets lost as well. If these tech employees that are making decent amount of money, paying a decent amount of taxes, are all of a sudden, like, piecing out of the UK, then I guess it could be a snowball effect, right? Where, like, as people are forced to leave, or people decide to leave, and tax revenue declines, then the economy in general declines, and then that has a more significant impact on the rest of the country, or the rest of the world. I think that's kind of what's happening right now, as people are sort of terrified and in this panic, and so you see like the global markets are taking this huge hit because of it.
That's pretty typical, right? When anything changes.
Something happens, people get afraid of change. Yeah.
People fear change. Everyone does. I mean, this is still a scary situation for certain outcomes. Like, we still haven't like directly addressed the situation where a major company has its international headquarters in the UK. Because they have to make a decision if this goes through. They have to. Because if you stay there, you're not going to be able to deal with the rest of the EU in terms of how you distribute, how you trade, because you're going to get taxes all over the place when you try and go over the borders of the UK and get outside of it.
Yeah, you get taxes, you get different fees for.
Well, that's what the tariffs. That was the whole purpose. Well, not the whole purpose, but a very small purpose of the EU was to make it all like with one set of rules, so there wasn't the type of tariffs that you would get when you try and like someone wants to drive a car in Britain that was made in another country,
a driver's license that works in multiple countries or something.
I thought you said terrorists. Like, oh no,
yeah, he was going to say.
Oh no, he's saying the terrorist one.
No, tariff.
It's over.
Sorry if it sounded like that. No, I'm not getting into the terrorist debate. Don't worry. So that becomes like really weird. Like how you're looking at being able to like throw a stone at another country that you can't actually trade with without something in between you, like an extra fee just to give them your video game.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, Europe wasn't that much different before the European Union. You would still just kind of like walk into the next country next door and go like for lunch. Like it wasn't like there are going to be more fees and taxes, like you said, but it's not going to be. It's not like this huge. It's not. It's not like trading between two foreign countries that are like separated by long distance or something. It's not like. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a good example because there aren't any like good examples.
And how does this affect stuff that you sell on Steam? Do you have to deal with any of these exchange rate issues?
Not personally. I mean, Steam kind of like does that work for you.
But it would affect your income, right?
I know Cibele is sold all over the place, but I haven't noticed any difference thus far. I guess I might in the future, but I'm not very like super well informed about how all of this Brexit stuff works because there's only so much time in the world to do research about something like this, obviously.
Yep.
And I haven't heard anything directly from Steam about it. So yeah, I guess for me, at least thus far, I haven't, as far as like selling something on Steam goes, like I haven't seen any changes.
Cool.
I think that does fall in line with a lot of what developers were saying. The ones who weren't worried about it was most of the games are dealing with these digital sales, and in that respect, there's not really going to be a tariff, respectively, on non-physical goods. So it should be okay. Other than the fact that the exchange rate changes, you're still going to get the money in your pocket, and for the most part, actually benefits other people right now that the pound has lost a lot of value because, like you were saying earlier, like someone's going to make, or no, I think Chris was, they're going to make more money off of less sales.
Yeah, they could possibly make more money off of it, but we'll see. I don't know. I think what's going to end up happening is people in the UK are going to end up paying a little bit more for video games, not too much more, but that's it in the end. Like, I don't know. Like, it's going to uproot some families possibly, but this hasn't officially happened yet. They took a vote for this, and then they're going to do this. There'll be some grace period, I think.
The vote has gone through. They're trying to vote again. Yeah, there's a petition to vote again because Scotland was not on board with this decision.
Those Scots.
So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens to the game industry as well as a result. All right, let's move
Hopefully
on,
we get some kind of Braveheart situation going on.
No. Okay, number 2. Jesus. Obviously, education can be a valuable thing, right? And equally an expensive endeavor. It's not exactly an easy move to switch education paths or institutions once you're rooted in one. Granted, many have done it, but it's in our best interest probably to attend the correct school for our future employment goals and to get it right as soon as possible. Thus, many of us often look to statistics when researching where we would like to receive an education for our respective fields. Attrition rates, placement rates, etc. They're all generally considered and highly regulated for accredited institutions. So what about private schools that are not regulated? Who's confirming their stats, and why are there so many code boot camps claiming to have a near 100% job placement rate? Of course, it's certainly not okay that some of them are lying to you, but how would you know otherwise as a prospective student? All right, here are some questions I'm eager to hear from the panel on. Why do you think this is happening? And what should be done about it, if anything?
I don't really know a whole lot about these. I just kind of know about, where we went to school. And
we're not a coding boot camp. DigiPen was an accredited institution.
Yeah, but it wasn't accredited. It wasn't regionally accredited. It was nationally accredited.
It wasn't nationally accredited, right? It was regionally, or is it the other way around?
It was regionally, not nationally.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, so this is like really, really expensive to just like teach somebody how to code, and like how in depth are they going with this stuff? Like, are they preparing these people to enter like into the Silicon Valley workforce at like 6-figure salaries, or are they just kind of like people can kind of like maybe hack some shit together when they leave, and that's it? It's like all these things like always end up being so predatory without actually getting to see like solid numbers on it. I have no idea how effective this is. It is just like a bored Silicon Valley, like, whatever, like mom and pop, like sitting at home, like don't have anything to do. Let's go take this coding boot camp, or like families like super rich. Let's like send our young children there for the summer. I don't know, man.
I can actually speak to this because
let's hear it.
I have some experience with these things, with these boot camp style things. For example, when I was in New York, I worked at Kickstarter for a little while as a programmer. And when I was there, I interviewed a young woman who was coming from one of these boot camps. I'm blanking out on exactly which one, but there was like a couple really good ones in New York, where I met people from those boot camps fairly frequently, just like being in the space. And I interviewed her, and she was awesome. She like had just basically her like start coding was in this boot camp, and the way it worked from what I know from like doing that interview was that she did the boot camp for however long. It was like probably 6 months or something like that. And then this boot camp had contacts in the industry. So like, for example, she reached out to Kickstarter, and like, they were like, oh, like go talk to this person, blah, blah, blah. So I think part of it is that those boot camps are usually run by people who are possibly well connected in the industry. Obviously, there's always going to be scams out there, but right. I think there's a lot of well-established boot camps that have good reputations, like that one. I think, one of them in New York's Flatiron School. There's another called Hacker School that my collaborator on Cibele went to, and that one, I don't know much details about it, but I think it's one of the ones that like will. You can apply, like, and if you're a minority, you can get like financial aid type situation. So you can go for free, which is really cool.
Nice.
So there's a lot of different ones. And I know the ones that are like there's some targeted specifically, at sort of minority groups and getting minority groups more involved in programming. And those ones, from what I've heard, are really good. And knowing other people in New York who did them, they were really good for those people, especially because they're way cheaper than like going to a 4-year institution, which a lot of people can't afford. So in general, in my experience, they seem to be like a really positive thing.
Okay, a follow-up question then, maybe a tough one potentially. Knowing that there are so many out there now, at least, there's just such an influx in them, and they range anywhere from $25 a month to $14,000 in tuition fees. Mm-hmm. Between all of these, would you say that it's the individual's responsibility then to do proper research, despite what information they're being fed by the boot camps, in order to know what education is best for them to choose?
I mean, yes, in the sense that you do that also, I hope, for like when you go to any like other, like to a college, like for example, I went to NYU, so in NYU or any other like major school, like hopefully you're looking into like what actual like people who went there thought of it. I think usually like if you find, because there's tons of websites where you can Google any of these schools and get people who actually went there talking about their experience there. So that can be a good thing to look for. Because there's only so much you can get out of the marketing material from these places because they all want to sell themselves to you, whether it's a private institution or a private accredited institution or a boot camp. So I feel like, in my experience, they feel kind of similar to me. 14,000 sounds like pretty steep, but I don't know. I guess if it's for like a long time, maybe that's justified. But that sounds like
a 4-year boot camp.
Yeah, at that point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the ones I'm most familiar with are like usually like 6 months, and they're like pretty affordable. So I guess it just depends. But most of them, there are a lot of resources online and like people who you can like chat with about it and like see what people think about these places that have actually gone.
Yeah, I mean, from a general perspective, I love the idea of a boot camp because you take all the things that cost the most money, which is, I'd say dollars per credit when it comes to going to a normal institution or an accredited one rather, and they're going to get most of your money out of all those other classes like English and all the other remedial courses that you have to take in order to get a legitimate degree. But at the end of the day, spend 6 months doing the one thing you're going to do in the field you're trying to get into, and you might be just as prepared, if not more so, than some people who went through a 4-year institution and took a bunch of other classes that had nothing to do. There's nothing wrong with being a well-rounded individual. Education is awesome. I love every other field outside of programming, and it's interesting to expand your knowledge in general. But at the end of the day, the guy who gets hired is going to be the one who knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm.
Who has work to show for themselves. Like the girl we interviewed at Kickstarter got the job because she'd built a bunch of websites and had like displayed expertise. Like she had a GitHub that was like filled out with stuff that she'd made. And that's not always the approach at every school, but often with these boot camps, like they do put you through it and like make sure you have like a portfolio at the end of it, which can be really important for tech jobs.
I totally agree. You have to have something tangible to show your employers in this type of field. That's one of the things that drew, I think, most of us probably that went to DigiPen.
I think that's kind of the thing that is important to look at, right? Is are they just going and getting like a piece of paper out of there that says like, hey, I went through all these courses, like just don't worry, trust me, like I can do this work? Or they're coming out of there, but actually they're getting out what they put in, right? So I've got like this portfolio of work that speaks to my experience level and like what sort of things that I'm good at and I enjoy doing. So it's helpful when going to work at any of these places where actually being able to get work done is more important than like what you have listed on your resume.
I still think it's really important to note that it also comes down to like experience and who you know. I mean,
it does. At the end, networking, yeah. I
mean, college as a whole is a big scam, but I mean, it is valuable because you get trained in your field, you get taught how to do work that's not actually important to your job necessarily, which makes you more well-rounded. But at the end of the day, I got my job because Joe knows how to play guitar. Like that's how it kind of came down to in a way.
You got your job because Joe knows how to play guitar, but also because you know how to program, right? If
I know.
Didn't know how to program, you would have probably not.
No, it's true, but I mean, I may have been able to learn those programming skills from a boot camp and not necessarily for your school. I don't know.
Sure, but then you might have struggled to actually like find a job because you didn't do any networking, right? It's like you met Joe because you went to that school, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it's about who you know. Thanks.
It's not solely about
I know it's
who
not.
you know.
It's not just that.
So you think college is a very useful, great scam somehow? Well, it's a scam that works.
Oh my god!
Yeah. It doesn't quite.
Just because it's a scam doesn't mean everybody's not getting what they want. You know? Just.
I don't even know what to say.
I don't. Neither do I.
But it definitely reminds me of DigiPen when I was searching for school. Like, I had to look up all these things. I realized it wasn't like accredited the same as like national colleges around the world and everything, or around the country. So I had to make that decision and look up what set it apart from other schools, I guess. So at the end of the day, I kind of really just packed up my car and drove here and then went to school. But
how did school end up working out for you? Were you able to get the job at Kickstarter straight out of college?
I got the job there through this program called Hack NY that was like sort of a summer internship program for students in the city. I was in grad school at the time. So they placed me with Kickstarter for that internship, and then Kickstarter chose to hire me out after that internship was over.
Not a bad placement.
Yeah, it was sweet. And that, like, Hack and Y, they're really great and like well connected, and like students get placed with really cool startups through them. So that was a cool program. But yeah, and in grad school, I didn't actually go to a formal games program or anything. I went to one that was kind of parallel to another one and did games in it. But I definitely like made really good connections at school and value those a lot. But I simultaneously was like also flying myself out to events and stuff outside of school and meeting people that way. So I feel like it's kind of always a combination of things for getting work. It's like you can't just go to college. You have to do a lot of other work too most of the time.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, networking is just a part of the whole big picture. You can network all day. You could even land the job if you're so amazing at networking, but it's not going to last more than a month or two if you don't know what you're doing once you get there, right? So
yeah.
Damn, I've been stretching it out way further than I should have then, because I have no fucking clue what I'm doing like 90% of the time.
I also don't know what I'm doing.
See, that's how I feel. I think we all, imposter syndrome is a real thing in this damn industry.
I'm not even, I mean, it's not imposter syndrome. I just know it for a fact.
Okay.
Well, they hired me and I'd never used Unity before.
See, there you go.
So,
exactly. Well, we've seen from school, right, how many talented people that we worked with that really struggled to find jobs because they had done absolutely zero networking and were like generally antisocial most of the time. So that it just shows how important like having those two things work together in unison is to like actually securing a job, because ultimately you got to go work with people wherever you wind up. So it's helpful to be able to like socialize and collaborate when you're working in an environment where like everyone's getting together to build something.
Yeah, I mean, if only I could go to a potential employer and tell them that in my sociology class, I learned that if you think hard enough, you can walk through walls.
Oh, shit. Are you serious?
Yeah. Every
time I've tried that, I run straight into the wall, dude.
I know. Well, you're not thinking hard enough.
I guess not.
Everything is possible, apparently.
Okay. Anything is possible.
That's like the same statement. Okay.
I'm not sure that's the same statement.
No, it's not. And yeah, we could probably argue that in a psychology class.
Yeah. I don't know. These coding boot camps, though. I mean, was this... I can't remember. In the article, did it say kids were asking about this or students were asking about
students in general? It's just the final question I have before we move on to the next topic related to what you just said is: do you think that more that regulation is required, or do you just think it's in the hands of the individual with boot camps? Because right now they're not regulated, and that's why they're throwing out numbers that aren't real. Some are, obviously, not all.
I don't know. Regulation's kind of one of the problems behind college, as it is in a way. It helps out a lot, but is it necessary for this? I mean, I don't know. Like, we're learning new ways to learn. So, I mean, maybe these code boot camps are like kind of a good step. They're kind of like a tech college or something. And for our industry, you want to be very knowledgeable. So, I mean, if they're getting you the information, I don't know. It's
okay. Round the horn. Is it more regulation or not?
I don't know, man. I don't know the answer to that. There are probably like pros and cons to both, right? The more you regulate, the more they have to like crack down on certain things that
more expensive.
Makes it more difficult for the students, makes it more expensive. The less they regulate, the more that schools that are kind of predatory will take advantage of that. So like either way, it's like kind of a double-edged sword, it seems like.
What do you think?
I think probably better than regulations would just be, well, for one, more transparency from the boot camps themselves, and two, a better way to like connect with former students of these places, because you can just learn so much from people who've like already done it, and that can really like inform your decision. Like I know when I was applying to college, for example, I was looking at all these sites where it was like student ratings and like students sharing personal stories about what it was like to go to the school, and that's kind of what I based my decision on. And to be honest, like a lot of the things that those students said about like the school that I went to ended up being totally true. So I kind of think, being able to talk to someone who's done it can be really helpful, and has been like my go-to for that sort of thing.
Yeah. I totally agree. I'm kind of a slave to reviews in a way, in a lot of things, unfortunately.
Yeah. In some ways, that's what regulations do, though. They
but it's self-regulated when it comes from the people who experienced it themselves, right? Maybe. Well, I was just thinking, like what you said, like if we had access to the people that went to the school or the college or something, it's a lot more valuable than having some board tell me that, oh, it's accredited by this association. I agree. Yeah.
That like is so generalized that it doesn't make a difference. Yeah.
RateMyProfessor.com. Yeah. That sometimes that dictated whether I chose a class or not, right?
Hot or not.
Yeah, the little chili pepper, if they're like, good looking. I'm like, that was the one thing that kind of threw me off from that, but that's fine. That's what people care about. All right, moving on. Number 3. Valve is back in the news on the back of a filed class action lawsuit. Filed is the key word because it's not rated as class action until they approve it. A Connecticut man who's an avid CSGO player / gambler is accusing Valve of violating gambling laws and racketeering. What are his claims based on, you ask? Well, that's a good question. It's possible to buy skins for Counter-Strike and use them as a form of currency for gambling on matches. This wouldn't be a huge deal, except that there are sites that exist which allow you to convert skins back into cash. So an entity that's supposed to be strictly cosmetic is in fact anything but that. Basically, skins are like gambling chips at a casino. You convert them to gamble, and then you convert your winnings back when you're done. So the lawsuit claims that Valve is not only aware of these companies, but is profiting from them since they obviously make money off these skin purchases. So additionally, many of the sites don't have age verification, so add underage gambling to the mix of this whole thing. Holy shit. Speculation abound because nothing has gone through, obviously, and that makes it fun. Maybe we should...
This kind of parallels a little bit what Blizzard did with Diablo in a way, I feel like. They had the whole Diablo 3 where at one point you could get items in game, or you could purchase them with the in-game currency, and you could sell them for actual cash. I think, is that right, Chris? Did you ever do that?
Yeah,
They took that out though, I think.
Yeah, the real money auction house was like you just sold your in-game items for cash, and then they got stored in your BattleNet balance, and then you could like withdraw it from your BattleNet balance. But it wasn't like there was no gambling component.
The reason I feel like this is similar is because they're taking in-game items to make real-world money. Like, you have a lot of games where, like EVE Online, where you can use real-life currency to purchase in-game currency and affect the outcome of the game. But there's not many games where you can actually turn that currency back into a cash that I could use to go buy... I don't know, a cake or something.
You can do it under the table most of the time in these online games. I definitely, when I was a teenager, sold my character from Final Fantasy Online for a couple $100 to a dealer. So but he wasn't officially affiliated with like Square Enix or whatever. It was just like some person.
These companies weren't enabling this kind of
That's legit.
This work or this kind of practice, but Blizzard was with Diablo a little bit, and it sounds like Valve is not necessarily enabling it, but they're not preventing it or something. They're enabling it by not doing anything or something, I guess.
Well, so this is interesting to me, right? Because it's kind of been a thing that they've been doing for a while now. And the fact that somebody is just now making a stink about it is kind of funny, which leads me to believe that
lost a lot of money.
No, I'm thinking this guy got permabanned or something.
It leads me to believe that whoever is filing this lawsuit, like finally either like got caught or got banned or lost a bunch of money or some other like similar issue, right? Because otherwise it would have just continued to be business as usual. There are even with the latest like CS:GO stuff, there's like this new like fantasy league thing that you can do where you're like buying stickers or skins and building a fantasy league and yada yada yada, and like basically pumping money into Valve and getting no financial return. It's like the reason like that this loophole I think has been able to exist for such a long time is that like Valve does not have an officially sanctioned way of getting money out of the system. Like I put money in and then it's just like buying like tokens for, I don't know, like Dave & Buster's, right? Like I play my games, get my tickets, and then I get some item for the tickets, but I never get... Right. I never like can change my tickets in or my tokens back in for cash. And so,
but you can get a pack of Smarties and you could sell it to a kid next to you for 25 cents.
Sure. Yeah. I guess if there's like a black market for Smarties, then awesome. But you know, with this, right, it's like a very, very like, there's this like gray market, right, where people are in a very unofficial way, non-sanctioned by Valve, exchanging real money for these in-game items. And so do they put a ban on that? There's no way they could police that, right? People have been trying to police like gold sellers and MMOs for 20 years and just gave up. It's impossible. And also, if they do start cracking down on that stuff, A, it costs Valve a ton of money. B, it might actually go against their philosophy of like creating more value for their consumers. If they know that their customers are happy because this gray market exists, then why would they shut the gray market down? If suddenly they're like the majority of their customers are no longer happy about it, then they'll pursue it. But pursuing it also has to make sense in that it will make Valve more money to shut it down and not cost them more money to shut it down. So it's like this really weird, complicated issue.
I feel
but
like
everything that they build into like CSGO and TF2 and whatever, all of it is like quasi like sports betting, gambling already. Like all of it is like kind of designed after the stuff you see in normal like Vegas casinos. So
that makes it worse.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's like it's very much like thinly veiled gambling, and they get it. It's because like I can't take my money out of the system in a sanctioned way that I think it's fine. Kind of, sort of, not really. It's not fine, but
I hope that I really hope that they don't have you testify, because now you kind of convinced me in the other direction really easily.
I think Valve will be fine in this particular scenario, right? Like Valve will not like lose this case, but it'll be interesting to see if more regulation comes down the pipes from the government. Like, oh, seriously, like 7.4 billion, like. Where's our little tax revenue cut of this? We need to start regulating.
That sounds about right. I mean, you mentioned that why would they do anything about this? And I was thinking the exact reason is to prevent lawsuits like this from happening would be a good reason for them to stop. Like, it's the reason why these companies stop these shady dealerships. Even if, like, the community is really enjoying it, people stop it. I mean, the Blizzard Nostra, or what is it? Nostalgia realm or something. Nostalrius.
We got it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, fans love that, but they still have to shut it down to protect their own IP and protect their company. And I feel like Valve should do that instead of enabling it like they have been. Like, you just explained how Valve is enabling gambling, and and it's always been that way. Like,
no, I mean, I totally did explain it. Like, that's why. I mean, it makes sense that this is happening. I think the guy just lost a bunch of money, and now that's why there's a stink over it.
Well, should Valve be enabling gambling? I mean,
should anyone be enabling gambling?
I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, at times, but not to minors, I guess, because they don't know any better. That's why they're minors.
Nina, do you gamble?
I don't, but now thinking about this, I want to go ask my 16-year-old brother who plays a shit ton of CSGO if he is an underage gambler in CSGO.
Be surprised. I mean, if you can acquire the skins in other ways, if that's possible, then you could build up essentially like free chips, and then you start your gambling career with your chips that aren't made from cash, and then maybe your 16-year-old brother could just become like a millionaire from CSGO.
Yeah, I mean, he can't go to the casino, but he can play CSGO, so I don't know.
It's funny to see games do these kind of things, because it's it really comes down to the line of, like, are people actually able to take money out of the system, I think, to actually have it be gambling, I think, because even though people are putting money in constantly and they're gambling with that money, if they don't get anything back, it's almost like they're not actually really gambling, and you can see it in a lot of other games. Another example is EVE Online.
Stop with the EVE Online.
I had to bring it up. There's this huge war campaign that's going on. And it's all based on this gambling corporation, or this guy that runs like a Powerball for EVE Online, and people just buy with real game money in-game currency to spend on this raffle to try to get a whole bunch of money back, and people are spending real money gambling in this game, but because they don't actually get them back, it's not technically illegal. Like, it's not.
Yeah, that's why that's the point we keep driving home, right? That Chris, was talking about too. Is it's a gray market. We don't know how to establish a black and white for this yet.
But in Steam, can't you get Steam cash back in some of these things? Like, you can trade things in game to get some kind of currency back at some point.
You get Steam wallet balance, but you can't extract your Steam wallet balance.
Yeah, but you can use it to buy other things completely unrelated. I mean, that's almost the same thing. That's the same thing to me.
Yeah, but Steam is not facilitating this like gambling that he is talking about, or that this article is referring to. Like, it came out of it organically, right? But they don't have like a built-in system for doing these, like this particular betting that they're participating in.
Off topic, I've been terribly curious since Nina mentioned you made like $200 off of a Final Fantasy character. Was that?
Yeah, something like that. I forget. It was so long ago. I was seriously like 17 or 18.
Yeah, but that was an awesome fucking payday, right?
Oh yeah, I like bought a sweet DSLR like camera. Nice. I was so excited, and I wanted to quit the game anyways, so it was like my way of finally cutting myself off, because I literally couldn't reacquire my character, even if I deactivated my account, I couldn't like reactivate it later because someone else would have access to it. So I was like, okay, I get a paycheck and I get to never play this game again.
Did you have a moment at all? Did it cross your mind at all to have that where you got the fever, where you were like, if I could find some of my friends that are done playing, and maybe I could start, selling their characters for them. We could start this whole thing. We get a bunch of money in. I could buy all the DSLR cameras there are, and start a whole black market, Final Fantasy character selling business.
Maybe I would have thought about that if I didn't want to quit the game so badly and be away from it. But I mean, when I was playing Final Fantasy Online, I was like friends with like I feel like they called them like RMTs or something, but like the people who would farm gil in the game and sell it. Like, usually these people were Chinese, and they would like talk to they would hang out. They were down to chill sometimes. So like I knew a bunch of these people, and it was interesting. And I don't know much about that world, but it was like a very like large presence in Final Fantasy Online back when I was playing it. You'd see these people like all over the place, farming and like then selling it, and they would like advertise it in the game sometimes. Like, they would get banned, but they were like always around. So I was pretty aware of it happening as a teenager, but never really considered doing it myself.
That was how it was in early WoW also. And
yeah, that makes sense.
It was kind of cool because I had a similar situation where you kind of make friends with them because you're hanging out in the same spots, like farming gold. And so it's like they don't want to they're trying to like do a job. So oftentimes they would figure out a way to like share like a spot with you that's really, really good so that they can have this one particular one, or like they like will make a deal with you, like you give them all these resources, so you're actually doing the work for them, but then you're getting like a decent chunk of gold out of it. And so it was a very like weird but cool situation to be in, because I was doing the same thing, and I sold characters and stuff too, and those were nice paydays every time those came around.
Every time.
I actually think there's a comic about this. I haven't read it, so I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's called In Real Life, and I'm pretty sure it's a comic about like in-game currency farmers who sell it for money. I don't know if people are into comics or not, but I've heard that is about that, and I have it on my bookshelf, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. I'm sure Chris Morris would get some tips from it, Mr. Gray Market.
Yeah, send it over.
Chris Morris's new nickname is Gray Market.
Or Mr. You can just call me Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray Market.
Right out of a Tarantino flick. All right. We're going to take a quick break before we get into the lightning round, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
After more than 2 years and 100 episodes, we are very excited to tell you about our Patreon crowdfunding campaign for the Cheat Codes podcast. We're hoping you can help us bring you great content as we continue to grow the Cheat Codes community. We've got a bunch of fun rewards for you to check out for becoming a patron, and you can support us for as little as $2 a month. So if you kind of sort of think we're cool, then please consider becoming a contributor. Depending on your patron amount, some of the rewards include access to additional patron-only episodes each month, Google Hangouts with the panelists, Steam game nights, and more. We're grateful for any help you can give, and we're excited to reward you accordingly. So head over to our website, cheatcodespodcast.com, for more info on how you can help out. Thank you. Now back to the show.
All right, panel, it's time for the lightning round. Here's how it works. We're going to take 2 quick topics and give each member of the panel 1 minute to chime in uninterrupted for the most part. At the end of each minute, we will award the panelists a quantity of some type of points based on nothing in particular. So, topic the first. Game info leaks all the time. Trailers hit the public before announcements. Spoilers show up on social media. You get the idea. However, from a game dev perspective, imagine what it's like to pour all your hard work into something only to have it spoiled. It's worse if you're a model employee, keeping your mouth shut, not even sharing info on what you're up to with your friends and your family and your significant other. Then poof, all that effort is no longer valid. So, things to ponder. We're all developers here, so would you care if your game leaked? Do you think that a leaked game is even a bad thing for developers? And maybe would you like to take this opportunity to share some spoilers of your upcoming releases? Nick Golish, I'll give you...
Am I going to tell us all the spoilers about our
Yeah,
our
please
game
don't do that. You'd get fired.
I might be able to get you fired, too.
Actually,
Do it.
I believe that you would. You have 1 minute starting now.
All right, so the question is, do I care about leaks? I don't really think so. I think it's a little bit important in a sense for marketing where... I mean, if somebody advertised Flappy Bird before it came out, there'd be a lot more Flappy Bird clones before Flappy Bird actually came out. So people try to steal ideas, and that's, I think, the main idea behind not trying to
Give away
your idea too quickly. But obviously more content is better for any developer. Like if I release a whole bunch of information on it, even if the game comes out later, like people are going to be excited for it for a longer period of time. I mean, that excitement might go down because there might be not enough content in between that time and the release date, but that's on you. You need to just keep releasing more information for people to see. Like if you release it at a steady stream, people are going to be excited for the entire time. I mean, it's not bad. There's no such thing as bad news. About your game.
No such thing as bad news
about your game.
I don't think that's the phrase, but okay, I will give you
direct quote.
It's a good minute. Good use of your time. I will give you 10 Slappy Birds that came out because Flappy Bird was leaked and this game came out instead. So enjoy your copies of Slappy Bird.
What are the themes of these Slappy Birds? They each have to have a theme.
Don't worry about it. Let's actually, I'll just take the next minute so that we don't use up probably the same ideas on this one because I'm afraid that it's going to turn out the same way.
All right.
I don't really, again, I don't think it's a big deal either for the same kind of reason, as long as it's closer to ship. I actually think there's a big problem in the industry right now where nobody wants to share a damn thing about what it's like to develop a game, which actually creates this giant disparity between the fans who like games and the people who make them, and the people who play the games have no idea how they're made, what the process is, and think that it's fucking magic and that it happens over goddamn night because nobody ever talks about what it's like. And that actually kind of hurts a little. I think it creates a lot more hostility because people think that they can just tell you that, oh, it should be this way instead of that way, and not understand that that's like months worth of work to do that thing that you came up with. So it'd be really nice if there was a way to just share the entire process, which a lot of indie games do, but publishers could follow suit in some way and actually have like larger title games actually show you what it's like to make something. That being said, I don't actually think that's fucking possible at all because, like you said, people would just steal the idea and then whoever gets to market first reaps the benefits. So it's catch-22, and too bad, so sad.
The catch is they're going to get to market first also.
Right, that will happen. Nina, you get to award me, the host, this episode, imaginary points for my minutes. So have at it.
Imaginary points.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Whatever you deem.
I'm gonna give you cool and spicy points. You're not getting a number. I'm giving you cool and spicy points.
I don't get a number. I like the mystery behind that.
But those are kind of like contradicting flavors in a way. Cool and spicy.
No, it's very good for your muscles if you alternate between hot and cold. So I will take it. And
Yeah, but it's not really hot. It's like
it's cool. Okay, here we go. Nino, I'll give you the next minute on this one. Have at it.
So for me, to use an anecdote, I guess, when we did like a press push for Cibele, I think it was like a week or two before the game was going to be released. I sent out a huge email blast to all my press contacts and to just people who I wanted to play it early. And I think it was Rock, Paper, Shotgun that published, and I gave them a press embargo. So I was like, please don't release your reviews, etc., until the morning that the game is released. I gave a specific time, etc. This was all in the email I sent them. And I gave a bunch of specifications for the embargo, as you do. And then I think a couple days before the game came out, Rock, Paper, Shotgun published their review, which was pretty disappointing because, I mean, it was a good review, so I was really happy about that. But it was a little disappointing in that, you know, when a developer requests an embargo or something like that, like it really, for me at least, it is to sort of have the biggest push on release day, for example, because, you know, a lot of sort of like online marketing stuff is like, how can you get everyone to write about your game the day it comes out? Like the more people writing about it, the more it's going to just like be pushed to the top of everyone's feed, whether it's like on Twitter, on Facebook, or on any of these like news aggregators or other sources. So I think a reality of games marketing is that like having that push and having as many people writing about your game at the same time is like really important to getting the word out, especially for a smaller developer who isn't guaranteed a review from every single outlet, for example. Like I really wanted as many as I could on the day it came out. Also, so that other outlets would see that as a trend and say, oh, we should write about this too. So I think leaks in that sense can be harmful, especially to smaller developers. And I felt very disappointed when it happened to me because I was like, oh, great. Like now other sites might start publishing their reviews sooner, like before, and break the embargo as well, because a precedent has already been set, which sucks. So in general, I think it's like kind of crappy when that happens, but yeah.
Cool. Damn, that
better points.
It was too serious for me.
No. See, here's the thing: is I'm actually going to feel really bad about what the points I'm about to give you.
Oh,
which is I'm going to give you a fantastic review for your minute, but I'm going to release it early.
Thanks.
All right, Chris Morris, your minute.
Oh my God, I can't even follow that up. This is like reminds me of that time when we talked about the No Man's Sky death threats. I was going to kind of riff off that. This is way less serious, but for me anyway, like if people are excited enough about your game to like leak info, I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess. It's better than them like not caring at all to talk about your game. I can totally appreciate the need for a concerted press push on the day of release or at specific milestones, especially like Nick was saying too, with like leaks happening prematurely before content is ready or leaving like a huge gap of like people talking about your game. But yeah, I mean, this sort of stuff like happens all the time. Sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes it's not a mistake. It's I think maybe figuring out how to leverage these leaks to your advantage rather than your detriment is maybe a more interesting conversation to have, especially when developers like make little marketing games or stunts around the leaks and like really cool stuff comes out of it. I'd like to see maybe some more of that happening in the future.
Cool.
Just to chime in there quickly to respond, the reason I know about the game Night in the Woods, or the reason I found out about it originally, is because they released like a tiny little vignette game about the characters. Like I think like it was like over a year ago now, but I remember when they released that little game using like their characters and stuff, and I was like, this is so cool. And I think they got a lot of attention for that, and Kentucky Route Zero does it too, and I think that those kinds of things can be really effective.
Right. It's just like no matter what, it's a marketing strategy, whether it leaks or not. People are smart about the psychology of the patrons, and they can figure out kind of how to play that. And sometimes people will do it to their advantage too, and it's interesting. Yeah. Chris, I'm not sure what to give you, so what I will give you is slightly less cool and spicy points than I got. I don't know what the number is, but I know that you got less than me.
That's fine.
All right, topic the second. Another Steam sale is upon us. Yeah, everyone sounds really excited right now. And Lazy Gamer wanted to point out that their office, didn't seem to care much about it. I spelled "their" wrong in the prompter. That's cool. We've chatted about this before on the show a bit. However, our previous discussion, set out to answer the question, why are there so many unplayed Steam games in our library, right? This time around, we'll chime in on whether we think the Steam sale is losing steam. Are we just catching up on all those unplayed games, maybe? Are we spoiled by the sales so much that it's just kind of lost its appeal to us? Or is everything just dandy? And Lazy Gamer, oh God, these are so bad. Lazy Gamer is just being lazy. All right, so let's do minute number 1 for Chris Morris.
Oh man, yeah, this Steam sale has been pretty underwhelming for me. I think I bought maybe, I don't know, 3 games, which is I don't know, like 57 less than normal. And the other thing is, like, even Valve seems kind of like not very excited about this particular Steam sale. I think it's the first one where there's not, or first one in a while where there's not like a kind of a cool mini game attached to it.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's like a huge bummer, because that was kind of the draw of Steam sales for me as well, is just sort of seeing what sort of crazy nonsense they were going to come up with next. Yeah, I'm like kind of checking every day, checking my wish list in hopes that something is going to come up that I'm like super, super excited about. But I just keep seeing this like, oh, it's already in your library. And I'm like, damn, I either own too many games or they're just like
problem.
Not much exciting happening with this Steam sale now.
That was an absolute perfect use of a minute. That was a minute exactly. So I'm very proud of you, and I will award you a free Steam gift of a game that's already in your library.
Perfect.
Great.
I can re-gift it to somebody else.
Yeah.
You may not.
I'm going to pass on my minute because I've been a part of exactly one Steam sale, and I bought 2 games.
Which games? Can you remember?
No. That's the point, right? And I just don't have time very much for it. So I will let other people with real opinions, like Nick Golish, give their opinion.
How's it going?
Go for it.
Steam sales, I don't care too much about them. It's nice when things I get on my wish list are a little bit cheaper, and sometimes I'll buy it, sometimes I won't. During the podcast, I just got a notification for an item on your Steam wish list is on sale. Final Fantasy 14. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to buy it, but it's on my wish list, I guess. So I guess that's a positive thing. I mean, I'm getting things that are on my wish list on sale. Unlike Chris, because he owns all the games. Unlike him, I'm only hiding like 2 games in my library, which is a really cool feature in Steam, where you can hide all these games that you buy that you don't actually want to play.
Cool feature.
Because so many people have all these games that they don't want. Our Steam sales really, I don't know. Sales in general are silly because they're kind of like, you expect them to be the norm of what it should actually cost, but when it's not on sale, it just feels like everything's just needlessly expensive. So I don't know.
It's a good minute. I liked how you rounded it out. I will give you an invitation to a used car lot to buy your next vehicle. No pressure at all. Nina, please do us the honor of rounding us out for our final minute on what you think about Steam sales.
I have complicated feelings about it, I guess. Personally speaking, I haven't bought anything in the Steam sale yet this year, and haven't really, I checked it on the first day and was sort of like, I don't know. I tend to prefer to buy games at full price just to, support the developers, and that's just, what I feel like I have the privilege of having enough money to spend on a game once in a while, and I would like to support the developer as much as possible, so that's what I tend to try to do. But I also recognize that, as a developer who's had games in these sales and in the summer sale, it really does like drive a lot of traffic to your page. And I think generally it seems to me like a higher volume of people will start checking Steam regularly and checking their wish list like you were talking about, and they're getting emails about it. So it is a good sort of time for visibility. And I, based on my experience, like I definitely have seen huge spikes in sales during stuff like the Steam summer sale or the winter sale or whatever. Like I think, the winter sale was like really good for us. So these things definitely are good in a sense, but it's also like, I don't know, like it's unfortunate because when we were pricing Cibele, I felt like I priced it from the perspective of knowing that people seem to only buy games during sales anymore a lot of the time. Yeah. And like, so I was like, okay, if most people are probably going to buy Cibele during a sale, I feel like I kind of need to price it with that in mind. And then that kind of like makes it confusing to assign a value to a game, which is already a confusing thing. It's just this other weird layer, especially how like, it's just a fact that people are going to go to Steam to buy your games. And that's like where the biggest audience is. So you kind of have to price it based on like Steam's sales and the popularity of them. So I have very complicated thoughts about it, and I don't fully understand, but Steam sales make me a little uncomfortable, but I also take advantage of them by having Cibele be on sale in them because I know it'll drive traffic to the page. And on that note, buy Cibele in the Steam sale, it's half off. But
nice.
So like I take advantage of it maybe even more for visibility, just like for the chance of being on the front page during a sale, for example, like that kind of thing can make a big difference. But in general, I'm not sure how I feel about Steam's like sale culture. I'm not sure it's like super great, but yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
I 100% agree with that. So, I mean, in terms of awarding you something, many more cool and spicy points than me.
Yay, I'm glad Cool and Spicy is catching on.
I really like that.
You should have awarded her with a bunch of 50% off coupons for Cibele.
She doesn't want to buy the game she made, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
I mean, maybe I'll buy it. I think I have bought it like to test the store, like probably early on. I probably did buy it.
Did you hide it on your Steam list? That's the real question.
I should. I actually should. Yeah.
This Steam's like, reminder, you have not played Cibele yet.
Yeah.
All right. We've pulled it off. Episode 1 and 2 is coming to a close. Nina, thanks again for being here. We really appreciate it. It's been awesome talking with you. Do you want to take another quick minute to maybe just replug, Cibele, which is, on Steam sale, and anything else you're doing right now?
So Cibele is in the Steam sale for 50% off, which means it's like, I think like $4 or something. It's pretty cheap. So people who like narrative-driven games, check that out. Also, I guess just to plug, like, since I work at Fulbright, obviously I'm working with the people who made Gone Home. Gone Home's also in the sale and was a huge influence on Cibele. So if you get Cibele or play Cibele, I recommend also playing Gone Home because mechanically speaking, like, Cibele probably wouldn't exist if I hadn't played Gone Home, to be honest.
That's cool. Super cool.
Yeah. And if anyone's in Portland, come to the party on Thursday at Ground Control. That'll be sweet. Other than that, look out on my Twitter for news about Bum Rush coming out, because it's going to come out. I can't say, and I don't have like an exact day yet, but like extremely, extremely super soon. And I made that originally for a party in New York called No Quarter, which is a really cool party. If anyone's in New York, that happens once a year. You can Google it. Usually is associated with NYU. It's called No Quarter. Really cool party. But yeah, that's me.
And Bum Rush was the game you were mentioning earlier, right? That's featured at this party. Yep. Okay, cool.
Yes, right, the 8-player car combat dating sim racing game, Bum Rush.
I just wanted to, I was hoping you would say that again.
Yeah. People like it. I'm glad it has a pithy little pitch.
It's so good. Thank you for being here, dear listener. Know that we're always curious to hear what you think, right? So please hit us up on cheatcodespodcast.com, Facebook and Twitter. Get in on the conversation with us. That'll do it for us for now. Make sure you check out the Patreon page. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. So if you mildly think we're kind of sort of cool or whatever, help us out. Thanks so much to our latest patrons, Rachel, Connor, and Sarah. Hugs and kisses, everybody. We'll see you next week for 103. In the meantime, we are Sex Bomb. We are here to make money and sell out and stuff.
Nice.
Oh, you could eat.
Perfect.